Welcome back to Inside Eastern Utah. We are here with Carbon County Commissioners Jay Potter and Jake Miller, and we are discussing specifically the resolution that was passed to withdraw from the Southeastern Utah District Health Department. We had a great discussion before the break on some of the reasons why, and I have to ask, you said, you know, it was a lot of reasons that people want to point it to just a hiring process that was recently you guys were a part of to hire a new director for the health department, but you said that was one of many. How big did the decision on the needle exchange program coming to Carbon in Emery County, well, let's talk Carbon specifically, play into that? Was it one of those factors that you said it is one of many?
It is, and during our meetings when we would sit down and discuss that, I almost felt like a foreign person in the group, simply because my thoughts and ideas didn't seem to be reflected by many of the others. Mm-hmm. And I had to actually invite the sheriffs to attend, because there was a big divergence in what the sheriffs were thinking versus what the representatives from each of the counties on that board were thinking. And we needed the coordination because of the conflict that was occurring between what the sheriffs wanted to have happen, what the provider of the needle exchange was doing in exchanging upwards of 30 plus needles for one used needle.
Or zero, or no.
And providing the cotton and the spoon and every other means necessary to increase the efforts of individuals to use opioids here in the area.
And I think that is one of those items. I mean, Sheriff Wood has been very vocal to us as commissioners and in the public as far as his opinion. He's our top law enforcement officer in the county, and I believe that he runs a very good program. And if he says this is not a good thing, it's not a good thing, no matter how you package it.
We actually reviewed a legal opinion that was 8 pages long, discussing the needle exchange and what is allowed under the current legislation, which they have said there will be more legislation this next session to clarify a lot of points. But basically, it was mentioned that by state law, which trumps our local, our local decisions, is that they can exchange a needle for a needle, and not the 30, and not the cotton, and not everything else.
Right.
And hopefully we can see some improvements in the next legislative session, but we'll do what we have to do.
Sure.
So obviously a lot of factors have played into this decision. Can you tell people what it's going to look like until the end of the year? The resolution gives 90-day notice to the health department of your decision, but what does this look like until the end of the year with you guys trying to come up with a resolution so that you don't have to withdraw?
So the next steps. We have a meeting scheduled where representatives from each county, because now kind of the act of tabling some of the items of our board meeting that we held just the other day was to say that, hey, the issue of whether we stay together as a board or we change is out of the board's hands now. It is now in the hands of the council and the commissions of the various counties. And so representatives of the different counties will be meeting to discuss how to move forward and if we can.
And we really did put 3 options on the table at this point in time. You know, one is a restructuring of that board, and basically what we're asking is that before we go down any of the processes, that we need to have new board members on board, and that we need to look at bylaws, we need to look at operational procedures, and then we need to address the hiring issue. To rush right in with a board that has already failed in a hiring process, I don't think they can be I'm looking for the word.
Counted
on, to make sure that the process is fair and equal to any and all candidates that would go through that process. So that's one. If we can come to a resolution as the counties to replace boards and to start fresh, then I think there's that chance that we'll be able to move forward as 3 counties.
And there's time to do that. You mentioned in the commission meeting that according to the state law, you can have an interim director for up to a year.
Correct.
So there's no reason to rush through this
That's right.
at all. We
That's
can
right.
take time to get some new board members in place and to have some unbiased decisions.
Unbiased, that's the word I was looking for.
You mentioned that we have time, but in a sense it also places some urgency. I say urgency because in the past year, we've not been able to
Right.
accomplish much. And honestly, for us to say, okay, there's a 90-day deadline is refreshing, because it means that at the end of 90 days, that there will be some type of resolution,
Mhm.
that we will have a game plan, a roadmap moving
Right.
forward.
And that can be this restructuring, it could be the grand withdrawals from the Southeastern Utah Health District, or obviously we have put our resolution on the
Right.
board, or on the table, and Emery County is going to do likewise, so.
Mhm.
Primarily, one of the big reasons behind us deciding to withdraw is because, as a responsibility to the citizens of Carbon County, we need the health department board to function appropriately. And without that, we're not providing the service to our citizens that we should, or to the health department employees.
Yes. So that's one option. You said there were three. What's our next
Well,
one?
the second one is that Grand County could certainly issue their
They
withdrawal.
could just withdraw.
and
And then,
do their own health district. Or if that doesn't, if those first two items don't work, then we've definitely determined that we'll be going forward and forming a new health district. And it will probably be with Emery County.
so if Grand withdraws, will the Southeastern Utah Health Department, as it is known now, it will just continue to function the same way? Will it still be named the Southeastern Utah? Will there be some type of restructuring? I guess what I'm getting at is, at the end of the day, the health department is gonna be different, whether that is from a board standpoint and it's still a tri-county district
Right.
health department, or we will be two counties and Moab will be
So when San Juan left,
one? Yeah,
the name didn't change, just by maybe a word or two,
Right.
but it stayed Southeast. If Grand County were to leave, I mean, we might change it to Castle Country, because that's what we are, Carbon and Emery. But the name is not as important as the function that
I
we
agree.
provide the community.
So it just really depends. I mean, if we withdraw and Emery County withdraw, then we'll have to form a new organization, a new name, and go forward. But we still need to offer the same services and provide the same, employment opportunities.
So I think regardless, what people can expect is still the same services. Whatever happens, you guys are hoping for it to be for the betterment of the local health department. And so people will still have all the same services and maybe see some improvements along the way.
Absolutely.
And ideally, just as we're doing right now, there'll be more public outreach come January with a new organization. We'll be
Right.
reaching out to the community, helping with awareness of what services that are being offered, and with the various things that we need to educate people on.
Yes. Well, certainly sounds like plenty to keep you guys busy, and I know a lot of other things are happening in the county. We wanted to touch on something else while we have you, is the courthouse. I know a lot of people are concerned about where the funding comes from to build the new courthouse on Main Street. Can you shed some light on that and where that funding is coming from?
Commissioner Potter, you want to hit this one?
Yet
Sure.
again, will you explain this to us and our viewers?
You bet. The 7th District Court came to the county and said, we need a new building. The building where they're currently housed is owned by the county. It's a building that's paid for. It's a revenue generator for the county, and it maintains itself. But it no longer meets the security and the court issues that the state needed. So this being a 7th District Court, they have the option to locate in any county that they cover. So when an organization comes to you and says, we need a new building, and we would like to build it here they gave a number of reasons. One is proximity to the center of a community. They can't be so close to railroad tracks because it interferes with their recording, and any number of other items. So do you tell a good partner like that, no, we don't want you here, why don't you go ahead and move it someplace else?
Take your money somewhere else,
And
please.
take your jobs with it. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't remember the number of jobs, but I think it's 30-plus
I was
jobs
gonna say,
that the district court hires. And so we went through a process of what does that look like. So we said yes, and that's part of the reason we vacated the old building and moved into the new administration building, was to clear space for the 7th District Court building to go where they wanted it to be. And at the same time, so I think the confusion is, and I've been approached by several citizens and community members of why are we building more courthouses and what's going to be the cost to us in taxes. The reality of it is it's not a cost to the taxpayer or the citizens of Carbon County because the state of Utah is paying for it. Now, we were able to convince them that the state of Utah, that is, that if we went ahead and moved forward with the building of the building, we would secure the lending for it. And we did that in a very creative way, using a couple of mechanisms. But the reason we did that is because then the state takes a long-term lease that pays every penny of the development costs of the building. And because we've went up front and did the financing on it, then we own the building when their initial lease is done. Now, are they going to move out of that building and we'll have an empty building? No, but they'll continue to lease that space even after the building's paid for. So it's a long-term investment for the citizens of Carbon County in that respect. The building was financed through bonding, and part of that came through Zions Bank because of the rates and the terms that they were willing to offer us in a very short-term payout. And then we went to the Community Impact Board and received the rest in a loan from them. And so over that 20-year lease, the initial lease with the state of Utah, we will have exercised both those bonds, and they both will have been paid off in full by the state of Utah, and the county will still own the building.
Great.
So,
And I think maybe some other confusion, apart from funding that comes about, is the difference between the courthouse that is being built on Main Street and the administration building that the county just built on First North. Can you explain a bit of the differences between the two buildings? Because some people just think, well, then they just build a new courthouse. Why do we need another? What are the different purposes of those two buildings?
and before we jump there, let me add one other thing, because now I also mentioned we had this old building where the 7th District Court's going to happen, or has been housed. What's going to happen with that? Well, we already have part of the court system that needs, for example, guardian ad litem and some of their attorneys' issues and other entities. That building is going to have been already released and repurposed when they actually move. So again, it will still be a county-owned building with a revenue source.
The benefit here is rather than an expense to the local people, rather than needing to increase taxes by a certain amount more, the income produced from the old building, plus the fact that we don't have a negative cash flow on the new building, will decrease whatever tax burden that would have otherwise generated for the local people. So it's actually a benefit not only to our community and jobs, but in what we'd otherwise have to raise through taxes.
So the difference between the two buildings, the administration building, when it was put together, was to do two things. One, to provide a court facility for the civil court. And so it is a local justice court where Judge Carpenter takes care of those issues. And in addition to that, we also now he does the work for Helper City. And I'm not sure if we have one other community that actually uses that one component of that building as far as the courts go.
I think Wellington does as well.
Yeah, so, we're trying to save monies within the cities as good partners also by using that facility. So that's one portion of that. But the rest of the building was dedicated to bringing all of the departments that were scattered in multiple buildings throughout the county together in one central place. And that has been real advantageous. When you get your engineer and your planning and zoning and all those things together in one spot, they share equipment, they share resources. It puts you so that you're a one-stop shop. And we've now also added DMV. For the renewal.
Right.
The state again approached us and said, we would like a place. And so we've become very good partners with the state of Utah. And so they rent that space on a lease basis, and they'll be a great asset and a great partner to be able to be there.
And it is so much more convenient for the local citizen to walk in, talk to the county clerk's office, go to the DMV, and the other services that they're looking for, having them all in one place.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly appreciate you guys being able to join us and shed some light on some of these issues that I know people are concerned about and certainly want to know more about. And we appreciate the work that you're doing. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
This was another episode of Inside Eastern Utah. We will be back with more of your favorite programming on ETV Channel 10.